from. Tell your girl she can kick it if she wants some, but we got no time to waste.
Welcome to 4AZ. I'm your host, Tyler McDowell Blanken, and we are back with another Abbott Elementary 2-pack recap. I am not alone. Not at all. I am excited. I am honored to welcome back the incomparable Mike Steph of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast. Mike, last time we had you on, it was for our recap of episodes 5 and 6, Dad Fight in the Deli. I'm excited to recap and review our 2 new episodes, Science Fair and District Budget Meeting. But first and foremost, how are you, brother? What's new?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I recently just came back from getting a acupuncture session with my wife. I'm preparing for our 26th wedding anniversary tomorrow, and I'm currently on the first day of my 10-day vacation, and everything is everything is pretty good. I really can't complain. Once again, I like to appreciate I appreciate you asking me to come back on this podcast, this platform. That means I did not make too much of a fool of myself the last time. So
Never that.
I love the fact that you entrust me on this platform, and I try to do it justice. I try to do you justice, and I'm all about the movement for azteach.org. Yes, follow the movement. Yes, I'm going to plug the you know what out of this. Um, I guess people are seeing
Thank you.
me probably after the little spiffy video and the little tune, that little bop.
Hey, you like
Yeah.
that? Shout out Drive Safe.
Yeah. I swear you should just superimpose my face during that intro, and I guarantee you, if you get 1,000 views, it'll go tenfold.
Tenfold, 10 times,
Yeah, tenfold.
10x.
Yes,
Okay,
10x.
well,
All about that.
clearly Mike is feeling himself. I love it.
Yes, I
Mike,
am.
it sounds like you are thriving. Rest assured, I have this on the rundown for us. Happy early anniversary to you and the missus. I love that you're getting that vacay time. I didn't realize it was going to be couples acupuncture. I love that for y'all.
Hey,
And I love that we get to talk about 2 new Abbott Elementary episodes. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Again, I teased this earlier. We are going to start with episode, what are we on now, Mike? Episode 13 of season 4. This was entitled The Science Fair. It garnered 2.72 million views. Lots of people tapped in for this one. And here is the plot. As the students work on their science fair projects, Janine, Melissa, and Ava each mentor a student and get competitive trying to win. They sure did. Jacob and Barbara are forced to be the judges alongside Mr. Morden, and they have very different standards. Finally, Ava is displeased when her father from Frank's Barbershop is revealed to be one of the science fair sponsors. And we know Ava's father in Abbott Elementary is played by the one and only, the icon himself, Keith David. So he popped up in this episode for the fair. Okay, Mike, there's so much to get into here. I have my notes. I know you brought yours as well. I want to kick it to you first before I ask you my specific questions about this episode. What did you think of the science fair?
the science fair, I believe, ended up how you would think it would end up. Between it would start off as something devised to help the children find a love of science, and it became okay. We're gonna team up against each other, and yeah, well, listen, if the kids slow me down, then they're gonna be left behind because I need to win this science fair. Um, what Not to go too forward, but what really interested, I mean, what really was interesting to me was um the dynamic between Mr. Morton, Barbara, and Jacob. I'll probably say this more as we get really into the episode. But for lack of a better term, Mr. Morton is an a-hole. He deserves everything and more what he's gotten. Because yeah, just like they said with um that that equation that they came up with, X plus Y equals Z, and what's the common denominator? Yeah, Mr. Morton. I mean, Mr. Morton is the common denominator. So, if he was going on the second divorce, guess what? The first one, shame on you. Second one, shame on him. So yeah,
No sympathy for Mr. Morton.
none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
He,
Because he brought out the worst in Barbara and Jacob, and by them trying to, pretty much trying to massage his feelings or trying to make him feel, inclusive. It brought out the worst in them. I mean, because some of the things. Yeah, listen, I know Abbott Elementary, they thrive on sometimes shock value, as in, did they really just say that? So I get it, but some of those I was just like, all right, why they hurt that girl feelings?
was it what Mike? Wasn't it you and I were in touch before this recording? Wasn't it this episode where a student called Jacob out of his name?
No, that was actually
Was that district budget? Oh
yeah,
my
that's the
gosh.
beginning of district budget.
Okay,
Oh yeah, trust and believe. Right? We'll get.
But
to
in
that.
terms of shock value, that was one where I was actually a little bit turned off as a fan. I just thought, okay, Mike, you're a proud dad. I taught for a number of years. Sometimes students will, have their moments, and we want to give grace to everyone. A student calling a teacher the B word, I was just like, especially Jacob of all people, the most empathetic, caring educator on television. That just felt a little bit, to me as a fan, maybe a little too much going for the shock value there. I don't know if that's super realistic, at least not in my experience. I've been I've been blessed that I haven't seen or been on the other side of a situation quite like that.
If anything, I would have expected a line like that or a scene like that in the episode in which they did the crossover with "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia."
Right, a little more
Because
crass.
Okay, I could see
Yeah.
that. That one just came so far out of left field. I'm like, is this Abbott?
Yeah, and then they moved on. It just didn't seem like it was necessary. I agree with you. If that was sandwiched into the Always Sunny, okay, we know this episode's going to be more crass. We know what we signed up for. But and again, like you said, I won't get too ahead of ourselves. But in terms of shock value, the Mr. Morton of it all works for me. That specific scene in the next episode, not as much. But you're not rocking with Mr. Morton at all.
No,
You just think
no.
he's. I know on your great podcast, you talk about so much culture, pro wrestling, New York life. You even have a new segment entitled Heel Turn, where you give your probably unpopular takes on major news items. So you're telling me Mr. Morton, just a heel, just a villain, no sympathy for this guy at all?
I don't even consider him a villain. He's just an idiot. Because
thanks for clarifying.
yeah, it's one thing if he's doing things out of spite. I don't believe he's doing things out of spite. I just think he's missing that gene of empathy, or that gene of common sense, or that gene of, okay, maybe this is not the correct way to go around things. He's just more in his own bubble, and that's probably why he found himself isolated, alone, single, twice divorced, because he lives in his bubble, and he makes everybody around him miserable.
Yeah,
I don't rock with him.
He seems to be that one consistent character on Abbott, that one staff member, that teacher who is not a part of our main cast. So his role in and of itself is just very unique in this show because he's a constant, but he's clearly outside of the box of these main characters that we all root for various reasons. But it's funny you mentioned Mr. Morton, Mike. I love the synergy between us. I kid you not. He was my first question on my list for you. I was going to ask, what do you make of him? And as the face of science at Abbott Elementary, this was really his episode to shine and to show off, his entire bag, if you will.
And show off all the warts that's in that entire bag. And
show off the rips in the bag too.
I understand, and on previous episodes of 4AZ, you and your guests have discussed how, especially this season, they're expanding and having more like little mini arcs with the other, it's outside the main character cast, and yeah, this was Mr. Morton's time to shine, and I'm glad we got that over with, because I do not want to see another Mr. Morton quote unquote centric episode. I could care less about his family dynamic, or if anything, I want to find out what made him the way he is. Like, literally, like, was when he was growing up, when he was in teacher academy or what have you. What made him be the way he is?
When he was in his induction program. Do you think we're going to
Not
get
yet.
that background?
No. I think it's just he's what he is, and it would help to round him out if if they decide to integrate him more with the core. But like you said, I think he's more of an outside character that he'll bounce in and out for his for pretty much the punchline, and then they'll move on. So yeah, we probably won't see that. But if they decided to devote an episode or even a webisode about his background, maybe I'll be a little bit more sympathetic to his plight. But as of now, nope.
No sympathy here. The story of Mr. Morden. Okay, Mike, we're going to move on to my next question regarding the science fair. So we interviewed actress Zinnia Zolamiso, Lila, from episode 11 and which was fantastic, by the way. If you haven't checked that out after you listen or watch this conversation, be sure to check it out in our archives. Shout out to Zinnia. She is amazing. So on this episode, we saw a lot of the students of Abbott in the spotlight, specifically the character Courtney. And believe it or not, Mike, she was on Abbott back in season 1. So she was one of the science fair kids who really stood out. I love her growth from season 1 till now on season 4. She chooses to conduct a social experiment on the competitive nature of teachers. And she even says to an inquisitive Melissa, Miss Shimenti, it would compromise my findings if I told you any more at this juncture. So as you pointed out earlier, it's to me, it was hilarious how, in many ways, the kids seemed more cohesive and organized and professional than the staff did in this episode. So my question for you, though, Mike, thinking about again Lila, played by Zinnia Zolamiso, thinking about Courtney and the young lady that plays her, has there been a show that you can think of that is better at casting and utilizing an ensemble of kids in supporting roles? Obviously, I grew up on Saved by the Bell, Fresh Prince, what have you. But I think what Abbott does so well is that the kids are playing supporting roles, and yet they showcase them in such a great way. Their lines always deliver. They're making young stars seemingly every single season. Can you think of a show that's done better? Because I think that's where Abbott is really flourishing this season.
I'm going to really date myself. Um, really date myself. I'm going to go back to two shows in particular. One was Different Strokes, but
Different strokes.
yeah, with Arnold and Willis and so forth. But more along the lines of the seasons in which you saw Arnold in the school with Dudley, um, with Lisa, the which called the super smart girl that him Arnold and her will always have some type of competitive nature with. Those characters weren't main characters, but anytime they went into the school setting, they really to me stole the show a lot of times. Also, another show from that era, and it started out as a big ensemble cast, and then they kind of narrowed it down to the main 4 or 5 with the Facts of Life, because the Facts of Life with Mrs. Garrett, they was at Eastland High School. I mean, yeah, Eastland High School, which was a boarding school, and they had maybe like 10 to 12 characters at the first season, and then they kind of narrowed it down to the main characters, Tootie, Blair, Joe, and so forth. Those two shows really, not to the extent of as young as the characters are in Abbott Elementary, but at the same time, the school setting, the child actor setting, I believe those two are pretty comparable, even though it's a different era.
I love that, Mike. Those are two classics, as you pointed out. That's what Abbott. I think Abbott's really found its footing, certainly before season 4, but in this particular season, as you noted earlier, it is the arcs that are being developed, and it's also these kids really getting to show their personalities in so many different ways. I love your selections there. My third and final point on this episode, I'm so excited to ask you about this. I simply titled it The Evolution of Tyler James Williams. I, perhaps like many of our listeners and viewers, were introduced to this guy during Everybody Hates Chris, playing a young Christopher Rock. But Mike, I don't know if you saw this. I'm sure you did. Tyler James Williams directed this episode. Big look for him. I, the Gregory character is just so fascinating to me. I want to look back at Tyler James Williams' career up until this point. Again, he was a child actor, so looking back at his kind of filmography here, if you will, we're going all the way back to him having a supporting role in Saturday Night Live in the late 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. He made an appearance on Sesame Street. Little Bill, shout out Little Bill. Law and Order, even Mike. I don't know if you know.
Yes.
Apparently,
I
in
saw a recent episode
2005,
with him in. Yes.
he played
Yes.
Kyle McGovern.
Yeah,
That was
he
news to
a
me.
hospitalized student.
Oh wow. And then, of course, as we pointed out here, Tyler James Williams played Chris, the lead role in Everybody Hates Chris, from 2005 to 2009. Nearly 90 episodes recorded there. And then, really, since 2009, Mike, he's had other supporting roles. He's popped up on Key and Peele, Criminal Minds, Dear White People. He was in 2 episodes for, but it really wasn't until Abbott Elementary, this role of Gregory Eddy, where he is. I think he's just a part of pop culture now as an adult in Hollywood. And for him to get in his directing bag for this episode, I just thought it's amazing to see him shine. We know, going back to what you said, Mike, about famous shows in the culture dating back decades and decades, sometimes when you play such a famous role, especially early on in your career, you can kind of be stuck as always being seen as that character. I'll give you 2 examples. Jaleel White playing Urkel on Family Matters. I think he actually just put out a book about this where he talks about kind of unearthing Urkel. Then you also have someone like Alfonso Ribeiro for Carlton Banks. We kind of always, Mike's doing the dance. Shout out to our YouTube viewers. Point being, sometimes these talented actors and actresses get stuck as being seen as this person well into their adult years in Hollywood. I don't know that we've seen a signature role from Jaleel White or from Alfonso Ribeiro since. Those are certainly not as big as those. I would argue Gregory Eddy, to me, just as big now as Chris from Everybody Hates Chris. Maybe that's a hot take, Mike. I want you to check me or affirm me. The evolution of Tyler James Williams. What say you?
I can't believe it's been 20 years since Everybody Hates Chris premiered. Like while you was 205 to 2005 to 2009. I'm like, really? I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, it doesn't seem that long.
And Terry Crews looks the exact same. How was that possible?
Well, I'll be quiet with that. Listen. This
okay, it's about Tyler. It's about Tyler James Williams.
Yes.
It's been an evolution though. Now, who would have thought 20 years later he would pop up and really be a heartthrob in this role?
That's a testament to his work ethic, I believe, and
talk about it.
Also, I'll give a shout out, even though I don't know this personally. I'll give a shout out to his parents to keep him grounded, because you have so many stories of child actors burnout, or they just end up going the wrong, going through down the wrong road and what have you. And for him to actually progress, stay in the industry, but not only stay in the industry, but thrive, and even now go on the other side of the camera to start picking up on those points. Like, very seldom do you see that. And I think, like I said, shout out to him, shout out to his family, shout out to just the people that's close around him. And even more so as a young African American male, for him to start in the industry and rise up and be a role model, so to speak, of that's a success story right there. I think that should be applauded. It's not only because it's the shortest month of the year, but because it's just such a warming story.
Mike Steph, so science fair. Any other notes, observations, what you liked, what you didn't like from episode 13?
Three things. One, Actually, something we didn't touch on was the whole impetus of why Ava became so involved in the science fair to begin with, because of the bond that she had with the student, based on, all right, the student's father forgot to sign the permission slip, and she bonded over that with the still unknown story behind why her and her father's relationship is the way it is. I guess, he must have left when she was younger. I'm not sure. Maybe they mentioned it. I don't. I don't remember.
No, it's
But
still it's
that
still it's still mysterious because they even teased us. I'm so glad you pointed this out, Mike. Clearly, I'm a great host. I forgot to mention one of the most important parts of this episode. That tease we got where Keith David, Ava's mom, barbershop owner, pops up, and Ava teases us where maybe she's gonna receive that olive branch. Her dad seems to try to reconnect, and then she just takes it from us. We think she's sad. She's maybe reflective. And she says, "Who do you think I am? I'm fine. Be gone. Be gone. I'm running a school here." It's still
Yeah,
mysterious. I think you don't think we're going to get the Morden backstory at some point this season. We have to get more of those breadcrumbs about this relationship with her dad and why she's so hesitant to spend time with him.
I believe we're going to get that by the end of the season, because they're integrating him more into the story. Before they introduced him, now he's actually in the school. He's donating for the. They have a face to face. So it's leading up. That seems like it either be a season finale type deal,
Yes, yes,
or a cliffhanger for the following season, since we know they've already
yes.
got renewed.
Season.
You
Check
know,
this out. Season 3. What we were waiting for by the end of the season was Janine and Gregory making it official.
yeah,
Maybe that's the angle, Mike. How do we end season 4? What's the big payoff? Maybe it's Ava and her pops.
yeah. So to me, that was really the most important part of the episode, was the reason why her and the student bonded was over the daddy issues, for lack of a better term. Also, there was one scene where is it Mr. Williams, the custodian, or Mr.
Oh,
Johnson?
Mr.
Mr. Johnson?
Johnson. Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
Mr.
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah, which go when he tells the student that he can help her with a science project because he used to work at NASA, and he was a hidden figure, and she's like, "I saw that movie. I didn't see you." And he responded, he's like, "That's just how hidden I was." I was like, "Oh."
That's the line of the episode.
And then lastly, like I said, we spoke about Barbara and Jacob succumbing to the harsh standards of Mr. Morton, but it was saddening to me that the students were getting their feelings hurt. So one of the students called Mrs. Howard, a hater, and the students finally coming together to choose a winner on their own, to me, was the basis of the episode, was the great learning lesson of the episode. So yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give this episode like an 8.
Yeah, it had that redeeming quality at the end, like you said, of the kids deciding the winner and just seeing and again, this is insert proud dad Mike, just seeing how innovative and genius kids can be. There was the volcano at the very last episode, the volcano exploding, and it just gave me a lot of nostalgia for when I was in elementary school and you had these projects, and if you were blessed enough, you had perhaps family members who would help you, and there would just be so much investment and you would have so much fun creating something for school. I think later on, maybe in our teenage years, we lose that love
Yeah.
for creating and for academia, that it's so great to see that so pure at this particular age of the students of Abbott Elementary, and how great science is, and to see little black boys and little black girls, in their science era, if you will, and engaging in science, these fields where historically, we've been left out or haven't been given our just due. You mentioned Hidden Figures, math, science, STEM. I agree with you. That really boosted up my rating, if you will, for the episode. That was a very nice way to finish it off, and it's just great to just to see how great kids are, and the innovation, and Mr. Johnson with his line of the episode. Yeah, they really did their thing on this one. It was different, like I said, very different than when we last spoke. We were talking about dad fight. We were talking about the deli, but another
Hmm.
episode discussing and focusing on another great true aspect of education, whether you're working in a school, whether you're a parent of a child in a school. Science fair, it's a thing, it's a vibe.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Now we get to this next episode. Yeah,
Another part
a
of
lot of,
school.
lot of politics. Yeah.
Okay, Mike, you laid it up for me. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Episode 14, district budget meeting, also brought in just under 3 million viewers. And here's the description. At the annual budget meeting, with Abbott mostly set from blackmailing the golf course, and Manny, I want to ask you about Manny shortly. Manny popped up. He told Ava that the school board has set aside a significant amount of funds due to her speech earlier in the season. The teachers are going to prepare to ask for extras. Jacob gets the idea for a counselor, Abbott having a counselor 3 days a week because students are hurting and need support. Insert RJ and other kiddos we've been introduced to. Jacob would later ask the board directly for this funding. And after seeing her rival, two Fresh Prince nods in one episode of 4AZ. After seeing her rival Crystal, played by the iconic Tatiana Ali, and other schools getting turned down, Ava publicly asks for the rest of Abbott's funds to be split between the other schools, redeeming character arc for Ava. Crystal is thankful, but also suspicious. As Jacob mentioned, Abbott doesn't need material things like the other schools. Finally, Manny later warns Ava that the board is furious and will be looking at Abbott closely. Talk about storylines that we may see the rest of the season. Meanwhile, a voice note from Gregory leads to him telling Janine he loves her. We love here, Mike. What did you think of episode 14?
I'm going to skip to the end because while I have it on my head, have it on my mind. Two things. One, at the very end, Jacob and Ava had a conversation after she already, pretty much decided to go up and divvy up the rest of the resources between the three other Title I schools. But she said that Jacob lied to her. What was the lie?
Wasn't it related to his what he was going to be speaking about in front of the board? She didn't know, correct me if I'm wrong, she didn't know that he was going to ask about the counselor and getting the counselor there 3 days a week.
Now,
You
I
think it's
thought I
something bigger than
see that's why I said that's
am
why
I
I said
tripping?
off air that I kind of got confused because I thought that he did let her know about the counselor, and she felt that either A, they were denying everybody. So you know what? Matter of fact, go ahead. Pretty much make him
Yeah.
the sacrificial lamb.
They even denied Crystal, who's like the epitome of a school leader in the district.
Yeah, and it seems like Ava only jumped in when she was like, "Oh shoot, they're giving him the counselor. Okay,
Right.
let me go in as a knight in shining armor. Well, since we have things left over, we could divvy it amongst everybody else.
Yeah.
So when
You
she
better
came to
y'all
Jacob,
better take care of my soror and let's spread the wealth.
yeah. So when she
Shout
came
out
to
Ava.
Jacob and said you lied, I'm like, well, that went over my head. Number one. Number two, what do you think? Matter of fact, I'll hold off to that because we got other issues we're gonna talk about. Because I pretty much already skipped to the end. So but yeah, that's the part that confused me. I'm like, what did she lie about? Like literally, you served him as a sacrificial lamb because you figured you was gonna get denied, and then when he got something, he got it. But I guess he said he was on. That's the only thing he asked for, and it's like, well, what did he say that he was going to ask for everything else? As far as I know, he came up to her like, yeah, the counselor. I asked for the counselor. So I don't know.
It didn't even occur to me that Abbott doesn't have a counselor. I didn't even think about that this season.
Because all the teachers have been the counselors, especially
Right.
Jacob, RJ.
Right. Right. And your wife, Mike, she works at a school. So we know the realities of often school staff wear many different roles.
Yes.
You have your
Many
role
hats.
that you're compensated for, but then you have counselor, kind of playing an older sibling or a mother.
Confidant,
I'm sure
friend.
your wife, mother-like figure for kids, confidant, friend for colleagues.
Yeah.
Abbott, again, this is another example of Abbott really showcasing the realities of working in education.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, me and my wife were just having a discussion today about certain certain aspects of the school, and not to say but so much, but just how defined roles are not really defined roles. Like, all right, your higher quote unquote, or your title is this, but your duties expand way beyond your title.
What do
And
they put in the contract? And duties as assigned by
yeah,
leadership.
and being the fact that we're talking about in my wife's case, impressionable young ladies, you're not gonna be like, well, I'm only here for X. I can't do Y and Z. You're gonna do what you can do to make sure that that student is well taken care of. Sometimes even above and beyond, and hopefully I'm not speaking so too out of school, but when we spoke to our colleague, our uh, close friend, Mr. Winchester, certain things can be can overlap. Like the things that you take here at school, you try not to bring everything home, but just out of human nature, you really want to make sure that the well being of the kid, or the mental of the kid is good. So that weighs on you, and even though your off time is your off time, you're off the clock, you're off the premises, but still, whatever situation you had during that day weighs on you, and now you're trying to actively think of ways to get better, or for make the situation better for said student or said situation. So a teacher's job never really ends.
That's
Well,
true.
at least a good teacher's job never really ends.
Not
There's
Mr.
some
Ward.
teachers,
No,
as soon
that's
as
not my point.
as soon as it's 3 o'clock, it's time to go.
I did hit that parking lot. Didn't I saw the photos on IG? Didn't they have an HBCU week at your wife's school?
Yes,
Yes.
they
For our
did.
YouTube viewers, Mike has on the HBCU tee. Let's go. Was it
HBCU
HBCU week?
school matter.
I saw there were decorations around campus promoting certain HBCUs. Shout out to North Carolina A&T, one of my favorite campuses.
Yeah, I believe I have a in-law, two in-laws that are alumni from there.
Your wife know,
I
yeah,
think
Mika noted that. Y'all got family
yeah,
there
and I
who
think
are heavy.
if I'm not mistaken, I think my one of my cousins from my side is currently going there. I got some branches over there.
The learning tree.
Yes, yes.
Great
Hi
AEW reference.
guys.
Mike Steph with an AEW reference. Another surprise on this one. Okay, Mike, there's really a lot of different directions that we could take our
Okay.
conversation for this particular episode. I want to know, what are your thoughts on where we're at with Janine and Gregory as a couple? Maybe this is the post Valentine's Day in me. Valentine's Day was yesterday, as we're recording this on a Saturday. The evolution, if you will, of Gregory and Janine, particularly this episode, as Janine got that voicemail where Gregory is placing that order. Wasn't that like a smoothie shop or
Yeah.
something? And the menu was kind of based around Valentine's Day theme. So the worry was that Janine thought she heard "and I love you" for the first time from Gregory. And my thought is, wait, y'all have been together for a minute now. How come no one dropped the ILY? But she gets that voicemail, and that's a thread of this episode: is did Gregory say he loves her, or did he not? Janine ends up feeling like, oh no, he didn't say that. That was just a menu item. And then she's in her feelings. But by episode's end, Gregory shares, oh no, I was referring to the menu. He was saying, no, I actually did say, you thought I said I love you? Like, why are you
I did.
upset? Well, because I thought you said I love you, but you didn't. He goes, no, you thought I did because I did. And by the way, I love you. And then we see them in that kind of waiting area inside the district offices. And we have that really nice moment. The evolution of these two waiting so long to say I love you. Mike, what say you? I love
I
that,
have
but Gregory, my man,
I have two trains. I have two trains of
it took
thought.
you that long to.
Listen, sometimes you got to be conservative. I'll say this. I'll give one personal thing, and one pertaining to the show. I guess I'll do the one from the show first. Janine has to be careful of getting into her feelings or overthinking the situation, because that could be I mean, probably not from Mr. Gregory, but Mr. Eddie, but that could be a turnoff. As in, okay, do my feelings not speak enough? Why, if you feel this way, or you wanted to ask me, or you wanted to clarify what I said, then as two consenting adults, and being the fact that they started off as friends and now evolved into a romantic relationship, you should be able to come out and say it instead of I don't know. Personally, I thought that was a little bit, I won't say childish, but more uh teenage lovish, if that's a saying. Um like I get it that you're so engrossed in your care for your boyfriend that you've been waiting for those words, but who says that the man always have to say it first? Like if you feel that way, so in other words, you wanted him to put himself out there, but you wasn't willing to put yourself out there first until you knew it was going to be reciprocated. Listen, we're in 2025. Listen, I'm just saying. Now on a personal note, and I'll try not to be too long-winded on this. Do you know? Well, speaking of the fact, we're in between Valentine's Day and Mike Steph's anniversary day, which is the national holiday, well, at least a city holiday in the city of Brooklyn. Um, with me and my wife, I want to say maybe the first 2 weeks of us officially dating, I said I love you. Now, me and my wife have been friends for a while prior to that, and fair foul, I tried to resist turning it over into a romantic relationship because I valued her friendship so much. But when we finally decided to cross that bridge, um, yeah, I said I love you, and then my wife tells me, she's like, "Darn, you kind of scared me off because you said I love you. You just we just started talking like 2 weeks ago." But my thing was I wasn't starting from the 2 weeks of officially dating. I was talking about all the time that I spent with you, when we wasn't thinking about romance, and then she told me, no, you just have a strong like. and maybe to a certain degree that might have been the case, but yeah, I don't really think there should be a time limit on on saying those words. But when you say those words, you need to make sure you say them when you mean them. Because once you say them, you can't take it back. You can't say I like you, I love you, and then 2 months later, like I was just infatuated with you.
Yeah,
I really don't love you.
We've all been there.
Yeah, right. Like you can't.
Well, it's so great you say that, Mike, because I didn't want to get too far in your business, but I was going to ask you. Listen, I am just a single 30-something with a podcast. I have opinions on all these topics, but you've
30
been.
what?
You have to check out my Wikipedia for that.
Oh, really? Okay. Say no more. I'm not gonna blow you up. Go ahead.
Early 30s. Mike Steph,
Early 30s.
you've been happily married now for decades, plural. So I wanted to defer to you because my thought is I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit more team Janine on Greg. You've been knowing her for a minute now. I was just shocked that it hadn't been said before, but I love that it was a part of the storyline for this episode and again furthered their relationship. And I don't want to use the word imperfections, but just showing that okay, Janine and Greg got together, but that doesn't mean that it's perfect. There's no feelings or disagreements. Like I love that they're showing the realities of yeah, sometimes you have to work through these little nuances and even the I love you and that's a very nuanced part of a relationship. But as you alluded to, Mike, it's a very real thing.
I listen. Their relationship. Matter of fact, not even their relationship. Their personalities are quirky to begin with,
and they have very distinct personalities as well, for sure.
So that kind of makes them the match that they are because in reality, it's like a perfect match because they're just unique in their own certain way. But you're right, as in those are issues that you don't really a lot of a lot of a lot of on-screen romances gloss over of the first "I love you" or how awkward it is when you feel that way, but you don't know how to express yourself. You know, I really, I don't fault Greg for saying that. Gregory for saying it like that. And I really don't. I shouldn't fault Janine for acting that way. Of like, did he say I love you? It sounded like he said I love you. My thing was like you're asking everybody else beside the man that you really want the answer from. You know that was the part. It was like I get it. Because of just the type of show it is that and just her stature. Um, that's they had to play it like that. But it's like Janine, like shoot, he showed you how many times, how many ways have he showed you how much he cares. So if you thought that way, if you thought it was I love you, I'm not saying run with it, but just like, hey, when you was on the phone the other day, I could swear you said I love you. Did you? And then he would have said like he said, yeah, I didn't. You don't think I heard you heard it? Yeah, you heard it. You heard what I
Yeah.
said. Now let's go to Bone Town.
Transitioning.
Yes.
This is not a favorite line, but a favorite, I guess, prop, if you will, for this episode. The bingo cards sent me. I love that. That is very real at the district meeting. I think, was it Melissa or Barbara that brought out the bingo cards? And it was, okay, stamp it, mark it out if this is saying, or Jacob plays, well, not even the white savior. It was he tries to educate a black person in
Yes.
this room about black culture. Like they're just at so many. It was just it was such a great prop for this episode and definitely elicited laughs for me here in the desert. Mike, my last question about this episode, and then eventually we'll get to the exit ticket here. I've been waiting this entire recording to ask you this. We got to talk about Manny. What is the long game for this character? Is he just a supplementary piece to Abbott Elementary, or do you see him playing a larger role? Because he popped up. I thought he was funny, but some people in my life call him cringe. He did the thing with names, Ava Coleman. He was.
The
I guess
Avalanche.
we could call it Manny charm. I found it a bit charming, but I get how some people could call it cringe. What's the long game for this Manny character? Is there a long game?
I'm going to put it back to you. Do you think that he's going to be a detriment to Abbott Elementary,
I can
as in the
definitely see a
school?
heel turn. I can definitely see a heel turn for sure.
Why would you say that? And I'll say in this particular episode, he helped them out on two occasions. One to
He
let them
did.
know,
He did.
oh, you left 25,000 on the table. Like, I get it, but you can get more out of them. And also put them on like, yeah, they're going to be watching you with a fine tooth comb because they are peed off. That
Oh yeah, he
I
was
guess
helping out
whatever
Ava. He
trick
was
you pull.
Yeah, he was putting Abbott on game. And to clarify, I don't want the heel turn. I don't think it's going to happen, but I could see a scenario in which we get that villain arc. I just think at this point, there's so much charm for Manny. And we know, my take on it is we know he's not trying to infringe on the Janine and Gregory couple, because that was a storyline for season 3 is, are Janine and Manny going to become an item? Is that going to happen and totally ruin our Gregory Eddy and Janine Teague's plans? The fact that Manny, there was none of that. Manny didn't infringe. My hope is that he continues to be a character we want to root for. I just know I have Abbott fans in my life who are not as trustworthy of Manny and see a way in which, Manny is not the guy who we think he is. I don't think the villain arc, the villain turn is going to happen, but I wouldn't completely rule it out, Mike.
Like I said, I could see him just
Is he just a
flipping or
district op
skipping.
for us? Is that the long game? Is he just going to look out for Abbott and kind of be that op, if you will?
That seems like a perfect role for him
Yeah.
because you have the boy itself that's just stuck in their ways. So it would serve them and it would serve the school well to have someone on the inside that is like a confidant or so forth, and just let them know like, all right, this is the way this is how you need to maneuver during this situation to get the best end
And
results.
and listen, that's real life. That's real life. You got to play the game, and you got to maneuver and pick your battles and be cerebral with it.
And I think that that was developed from Janine's limited time actually at the district, and that's how they developed the rapport between Manny and his cohorts and and Abbott. So that's where I'm thinking it's leading, or that's where I would like it to lead. I don't think it's really too much of a heel turn. It's just he's just awkward, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
a lot of our characters are. A lot of
yeah,
humans are. We all have our
you
little
know,
idiosyncrasies.
um, I do which I do want to have one. I'm not sure. I don't want to take over, but there's one topic that I did want to bring up before we pivot, and that would be the irony that this episode was talking about the allocation of resources and funds to different schools. And unfortunately, in reality, in real life, we're dealing with a certain branch of a government that's trying to take away or cut resources from schools. As a matter of fact, just cut a whole department dealing with education, and it's almost like art imitating reality, but not in that case because I'm quite sure this was filmed way before the transition. So it's like, damn, they were pretty much on par, especially this particular week where you had the confirmation hearings of the quote unquote the leader or the head of the Department of Education that they're trying to chop. You know, there's other things we could talk about. Maybe we'll talk
Linda,
about
Linda,
on
Linda McMahon of WWE fame.
yeah, and
No more
her
black
support in the back.
no more.
You,
Yes, I saw that. No more black student unions. No, not allowed. No more AP African American history classes.
yeah, which is
Like, what
which
are
is
we? What?
which is really crazy because my daughter
Come
main
on,
event
bro.
K
What are
is
we?
is actually having, I think she's in AP history right now.
Shout out K.
So, and they don't realize, well, they do realize how important these AP classes are because they're actually getting those valuable credits while they're still quote unquote free until they get into college and they can start college at a certain level and actually save some money. So yeah, it's just a hard dose of reality that this kind of reinforced at a local level what goes on in these meetings and these hearings and how important it is for your communities to go out to these hearings, go out to these meetings, so you know exactly, or at least you have a say in exactly how the money is being allocated toward your community. I'm guilty myself because a lot of times we don't get the information. You really got to be diligent on getting the information, but at the same time, I do know that you can only the best thing to do is to help the world that and then from there you can gradually sprout out. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic, Mike. And what you pointed out, like so many things in life, for better or worse, it all comes down to money. And in the case of districts, whether in Arizona or Philly, Abbott setting, or in Brooklyn and Crown Heights, it's all about money, and you rely on federal dollars. So federal funding, if the prospect is it's going to be taken away from you because you don't comply with certain orders or new legislation, it's tough, right? Because ultimately, all of us are here for the kids. That's what it's about. It's not about me. It's about doing what's best for kids. But at the same time, all kids deserve to learn about the history of our country and being able to join clubs on campus, perhaps identity groups and affinity groups that helps you find your community on campus. So this could certainly be its own separate episode. I know you and I definitely have thoughts on this. To me, it ultimately, to your point, comes back to funding and district leadership, educators, everyone working in schools. I'm of the belief they want to do what's best for kids. And ultimately, usually number one on that is doing everything you can to procure dollars for the school so you can have laptops, so you can have counselors, so you can have a building that doesn't fall apart, right? It's just
Hot water.
again, Mike, exact clean functioning water. This goes back to what Abbott does well of mixing in the comedy with the realities of school.
Yeah, you know, one last note, I should say. How do you? This is a question I'm going to give you. How do you feel about the two students? For lack of a better term, pressing Jacob on. Listen, you got RJ a club. What about me?
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
That felt real. That felt real because kids notice everything. That felt really real. I love that because it felt authentic. And for Jacob, you got to be really careful to not, what did it say, not play favorites. In his mind, he sees a student struggling. He's going to do everything in his power during school and after school to get RJ connected. But then kids are going to see that. And ideally, they're going to be happy for RJ, but they're also going to come at Jacob and say, hey, I get sad too sometimes. Can you start a club for me? That felt real. I love that part of this episode.
and the vibe, it wasn't really a jokey vibe. It was like, yo, handle that business because
Where's my
if
clothes?
not, like I said, I'm not squeamish, I'm not prudish, but it was just like, especially homeboy, he was looking at, he was like, yeah, what about me?
Yeah,
You know,
he was about.
you got him a club.
He was about
Shoot,
that action.
I don't have a great household situation either.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, yeah, that. I feel for Jacob, but he set himself up for this. Kids notice, they observe everything. You got to be ready for the ramifications of that.
Yeah, but that was I guess out of the two episodes, even like you said, they were vastly different episodes. Um, if I had to choose one or the other, I think I would say the district was my preferred episode because of so many different aspects that it touched, and it was more grounded in realism instead of, all right, which card, this is the scenario, we're gonna have hijinks with the teachers and so forth. This one was, you can probably go to any neighborhood school and see various things that are akin to what we saw on the district episode.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Mike, you put it perfectly. It looks like we're taking a week off from Abbott. I don't think we have a new episode coming up this week, but then the last Wednesday in February, the 26th, we'll have a new Abbott entitled The 100th Day of School. We will have to stay tuned to see what that's about. Mike, before we get out of here, you know how we do it on 4AZ. I have an exit ticket for you. Here's my question. Who is the MVP of this two-pack?
Wow. I'll say Ava. For this reason. One, in the first episode, actually both episodes she showed vulnerability. The first one she showed vulnerability based on the father issues and bonding with the child. The second episode she showed vulnerability by helping out the other school, helping out and being magnanimous in her, her whatever. But yeah, Ava. Just which called bottom line, Ava.
It's a solid case. Yeah, she came through and you said you preferred the district meeting. That's where she really, I can see why she solidified that MVP case for you, because not only did she show out, but she also took care of the other schools. She took care of Crystal. It's like this is the growth that we like to see out of Ava. And like you said, that storyline with her father, I really think that's going to play a pivotal role in the remainder of season 4, Mike. So in terms of characters that are getting a larger arc, we've really expanded past just Janine and Gregory, and Ava is one of those characters to me that's really shining in season 4. All that being said, my choice, hope this isn't a cop out, my MVP for this 2-pack are the kids of Abbott. Not only did they show up and show out, at the science fair for all the reasons you
Okay.
noted earlier. But they're also, along with laptops, we don't need to remind folks how they got those laptops, but they have them. They're also going to get a counselor at school. The come up is real, Mike Steph. Our kids deserve nice things.
That's a cop out. That's a cop out.
Can we have
Because
multiple MVPs? Can we have a
the kids in the second episode, they were the beneficiary of it, but yeah, to tell you the truth, the only two kids you saw with the two that pressed Jacob, and I wouldn't call them MVPs.
Listen, and they're about that action, Mike. They maximize their minutes in both episodes.
Juvenile delinquents in the making. Talk about. Listen, like I said, you're lucky this is a family program because there's so many thoughts. There's so many thoughts. So many salty thoughts I could have.
Oh,
like the pun, right?
Yeah. Hey, that's what we call synergy. Mike Steph, thank you so much for joining us once again. It is always an honor to have you. Speaking of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast, final question: how can our audience connect with you?
Okay. Well, you can definitely catch me on Instagram as I show my ashy knuckles. You can catch me on Instagram at Mike _Steph. Yeah, that's probably the best way social media wise you can contact me. X, yeah, I'm not really active there. Facebook, I'm not giving you my personal information. And also, my podcast, on Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph, available on all streaming platforms where podcasts are available, and on the YouTube channel of at Mike Steph _. Also, even though football season's over, I'll be remiss if I do not mention the joint podcast that I have with the Mojo King, a part of the 19 Media Group, entitled Hidden Gems Football. Hidden Gems Football. During the football season, we drop 3 times a week, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And please check out our post Super Bowl episode, which I believe just dropped during our recording. So it should be live right now on the YouTube channel of the 19 Media Group. So those are the 2 places you can catch me on, and everything else, just follow the Instagram where I like to do a lot of karaoke, car karaoke, and spit some rhymes or 2 or 3 or 4. And then you can get all the information for that on Instagram.
We love Mike Steph. Check out Mike and support his great work. Also, let us know what you thought about these 2 Abbott episodes. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on social. You can follow us at 4AZ Peach for exclusive show updates and more. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.